So the following information is collected: securities P, Q, R, and S. The current price is given. The payoff is given 1 year later. Securities P and Q are identical in every respect other than as noted. So apart from the price and the payoff, P and Q are identical as far as credit risk, structure, any other aspect of the company is concerned. Similarly, securities R and S are similar in every other respect. Demonstrate the exploitation of any arbitrage opportunities. So what we say is that in the first case, the additivity or the value additivity is getting violated, because if I take 10 of security P, then I'm getting a lower payoff for a higher price. I pay 800 and I get 1100, whereas security Q, which is identical in every other respect, is giving me $1110 for a same price of 800. So if P and Q are identical, how can I arbitrage? Short Q and long P, because Q will give me my apologies, it's the other way around. P is giving you a lower payoff for the same price. So how will I exploit the arbitrage? I can long Q and short P. I won't have to spend any money right now, because longing this I'll have to pay 800, and longing Q I will have to pay 800, and shorting P I will receive 800, whereas at maturity I'm going to receive 1110 and I will have to pay only 1100. So I'll make a $10 arbitrage profit. Similarly, it's a very simple example. R and S are mispriced. It's called dominance, because they're identical in every respect, but the price is different. So again, I can long S and short R. No payoff right now, but I'll get $97 and I'll have to pay only 95. So arbitrage free valuation says that either the price of P should go down or the price of Q should go up, because this is clearly an arbitrage opportunity because the securities are identical. Similarly, either the price of R should go down or the price of S should go up, because otherwise there is an arbitrage opportunity as things stand right now. Arbitrage free valuation of fixed rate option free bonds entails discounting each of the bonds' cash flows at its corresponding spot rate. So Paul Matthew, a fixed income analyst, is interested in valuing a 3-year 3% annual pay $100 par bond with the same liquidity and risk as the benchmark. What is the value of the bond using the benchmark par curve provided below? So please note, the benchmark par rate is given, or the par curve is given, not the spot rate. So I can derive the spot rates from the par rates. So par rate is what? Please recall from the previous review. What is the par rate? It is the yield to maturity. It is the yield to maturity that makes the price of this bond, and we're just revising here now, that makes the price of the bond equal to par value or face value, which means that this yield to maturity has to be equal to the coupon rate. So $100 is the par value for a 1% coupon bond with a 1-year maturity. What will be the cash flows? 100 plus 1 discounted back by 1 plus S1 will give me $100. Similarly, 1.25 is the coupon for a 2-year bond. Again, we've done this question earlier, so we are just repeating it again. This was the concept of bootstrapping, please recall, that we started in the previous review. To compute the spot rates. So I can compute S2. Similarly, I can compute S3. Please watch the previous video for more details if you've forgotten how to do it. So again, I can derive S2. I can derive S3. This is the coupon of the bond. The coupon is equal to the yield, hence the value is par value. I can derive S3, and then I can use S1, S2, S3 to value my particular bond, which is in this instant. And understand better. A 7% annual coupon bond has 2 years to maturity. The interest rate tree is shown in the figure below. Fill in the tree and calculate the value of the bond today. So please note, in the binomial tree model, the way we've studied it, we assume equal probability of movement into the separate nodes. So the bond has 2 years remaining to maturity. So at the end of t equal to 2, come what may, the bond has to give us $107. That is $7 of coupon and $100 par value. Depending on what the interest rate is, I will discount it back to get to the value today. So at t equal to 1, let's assume this is node 0, node 1, node 2. So if I am at node 1, that means the rate of interest has moved up to 7.1826%, or the value of the bond would be $107 upon 1.071826. Similarly, if I'm in node 2, the value of the bond would be $107 upon 1.05321. Because in either case, I'm getting 107. So I don't have to do a 50-50 anymore. If I'm at t equal to 1 and I'm computing the value of the bond at node 0, now there's a 50% chance. In both cases, I'm going to receive the $7 coupon. So there's a 50% chance that I receive this value plus the $7 coupon discounted back by 1.045749. And there's a 50% chance that I receive this value plus 7 discounted back again by 1 plus 0.045749. So multiply this with 50 and sum them up will give us the value of the bond at node 0, that is at t equal to 0. We'll do this example a couple of times, so it's a straightforward example. You can verify the value will come out to be 102.9 or 103 approximately. Z has collected the following information on the par rate curve, spot rates and forward rates. He asked a colleague, Alok Nath, to generate a binomial interest rate tree consistent with this data and an assumed volatility of 20%. Nath completed a partial interest rate tree as shown below. Spot rates are given. Par rates are given. The binomial tree with standard deviation of 20%. Standard deviation is also annualized, okay guys, always remember. Unless otherwise mentioned, all rates will be annualized. At t equal to 0, the rate is 3% is given. Sorry, the spot rate is 3%. And then as time passes, rates can move. Rates can go up, rates can go down. From this point again, they can go up or they can go down. They can go up or they can go down. You understand how A, B, C and D are coming? Now he says 3% is given, and on the up move, the rate is 5.7883. First question is calculate the forward rate indicated by A. So the distance between A and the node above has to be 2 standard deviations. So it's a log normal model that we're following. So A will be equal to this rate, or the upper node, I'm calling it upper node at 1, A is the lower node. So upper node at 1 into e raised to the power minus 2 sigma. That is, it will be 2 standard deviations below. So A comes out to be please verify. E raised to the power minus 2 sigma. Sigma is given to be 20%. So it will be 5.7883 into e raised to the power minus 2 into 0.2, that is e raised to the power minus 0.4. So please verify how much will this come out to be? 3.88%. Now then we need to calculate B, C and D. If I calculate any one of these, so question asks estimate the forward rate indicated by C and the forward rate indicated by B and D. So please note, all of these are 1 year rates. This is also a 1 year rate, this is also a 1 year rate. This is the 1 year rate 1 year later. This will be the 1 year rate 2 years later. Again a 1 year rate 2 years later. Which of these nodes has to be exactly equal to F21? The middle node. The midpoint has to be the expected value of F21. Is there any other way, is there any other data given in the question that helps me calculate F21? The spot rates are given. That's what I've been doing the last entire session. So if the 1 year rate is given, 2 year rate is given, 3 year rate is given, I can obviously calculate F21. What can I say? Can I say 1 plus S3 to the power 3 is equal to 1 plus S2 to the power 2 into 1 plus F21? Anyone disagrees with this? Is it correct? A 3 year borrowing is equal to a 2 year borrowing refinanced for 1 year. So please calculate F21. It's an important question. I expect this question can be tested on the exam. So please verify F21 will come out to be 7.199%. And after that, if I have C, I can compute B and D, because each node is how many standard deviations apart? 2 standard deviations. So B will be 2 standard deviations higher, D will be 2 standard deviations lower. So B will be whatever is C into e to the power plus 2 into 0.2, and D will be whatever is C into e raised to the power minus 2 into 0.2. Remember, because it's a log normal assumption, that's why we're doing e to the power minus 2 standard deviations, because we assume our interest rates follow a log normal model. So that's how you calculate D and B. Okay, complicated if you try to study on your own, you may get a bit intimidated, but you know it's a very simple concept. So the binomial tree must originally fit our data, and then that is, starting point has to be the spot rate. The starting point in the model has to be the current spot rate, and the nodes are 2 standard deviations apart. The middle road represents the expected forward rate, or rather represents the 1 year forward rate for that time period. So again, Samuel Farver is interested in valuing a 3-year annual pay treasury bond. He has compiled the following information on treasury spot rates. Compute the value of $100 face value option free bond. Again, just a repetition. Spot rates are given. I just need to discount it back to get to the price of the bond. Now again, the same bond. However, now he wants to value this bond using a binomial interest rate tree. So if we need to value using a binomial interest rate tree, we use the backward induction methodology. Please note it's a 3-year bond. So at the end of the 3rd year, what is the amount that I'm going to get? It doesn't matter where I go. At the end of the 3rd year, I will get an amount equal to $103. So the value at node, let's give each of the nodes a value. Start with node 0, node 1, node 2, node 3, node 4 and node 5. Let's calculate the value at each nodes and then keep discounting it back to compute the value at t equal to 0. Value at node 3 will be how much? 103 divided by 1 plus 0.107383. Similarly, I can calculate node 4. 103 divided by 1 plus 0.0719. Node 5 will be again 103 divided by 1 plus 0.04825. What will be the value at node 1? 50% chance of this, 50% chance of node 4 plus a $3 coupon. So I'm going to get a $3 coupon at every year. So value at node 1, the discount rate is 5.7833, will be 50% chance of the value at node 3 plus $3 plus 50% chance value at node 4 plus $3, discounted back by 1 plus 0.057883. Does everyone agree? Similarly, I can compute the value at node 2. Let's see node 2 what will happen. I'm seeing either node 4 or node 5 with equal probabilities. That's the assumption. So 50% chance, 0.5 or half, however you want to say it, that I get node 4 plus $3. What is this $3? Coupon for that year. Plus half probability I see node 5. And node 5, you know, I've derived already. Plus $3, but I'll have to discount it back. I can individually discount it and add it, but it's just double discounting, or I can discount the whole thing together by a rate of 3.88%. Finally, to compute the value at node 0, it will be half of node 1, N1 I'm calling it, plus 3, plus half N2 plus 3, discounted back by 3%. This is the backward induction methodology, which will give me a value of $94.49. Please verify. So there are many paths that we can take. So year 1 3%, year 2 5.7, year 3 10.783, and then I discount it and I get the value. So value in path 1, value in path 2, value in path 3, value in path 4, and I take the average of the 4 paths, will also give me the same answer as 94.49 as the backward induction. So it's easy for like smaller, but as the nodes become larger and larger, number of paths will keep increasing. So in general, we know that there can be 2 to the power n minus 1 possible paths. So in this case, n is 3 because it's a 3-year maturity. So there will be 2 to the power 2, that is 4 paths that we just highlighted as well. So if this was a 4-year maturity bond, then how many paths would there be? 2 to the power 4 minus 1, that is 8 paths for a 4-year maturity bond. So paths will become too many as the time to maturity goes longer, or the number of periods goes longer. So the backward induction that we studied earlier is a better method according to me to value or to compute. So that is compute the value at the preceding node, discount it back to reach the previous node until you reach t equal to 0. We will have many different paths of interest rates. Generally, we will input our assumptions of volatility, our assumptions of what our expectations are in the economy, the historical volatility, and we'll put it in a computer, and a computer will generate some scenarios of interest rates for us. They can go up, down, various paths can be taken. Then we just discount our bond cash flows back, assuming those interest rates, and compute the value of the bond. So let's say these are the paths that were generated by the Monte Carlo simulation. Year 1, year 2, year 3 interest rate goes up, keeps going up. So I can use these interest rates, and I know the cash flows. The cash flow is how much? Year 3, 103, year 2, 3, year 1, 3. So these are 1 year forward rates. So this rate I will use to discount back 1 year. Then the entire cash flow I'll discount back 103 to year 1 and to get to my value. So for the first path, for instance, how will the value be derived? 103 divided by 1 plus 0.1059. This will be the value at year 2. I'll add 3 to this and discount it back by 1 plus 0.0532. This will be the value at year 1. This again I will add $3, that is the coupon, in year 1, and I will discount it back by 1 plus 0.03 to compute the value at t equal to 0. Exact same thing I'll do for all the paths, and I'll take the average price from all the paths, and that will give me the value. In this case it comes out to be the same as 94.49. So please verify the price or value for any one of these paths. Okay, as a homework, please pause the video here if you're watching the video, or just verify any one of these paths so that you know that the calculation is correct. So relatively simple reading, not too complicated.